The train stopped 5 miles from its destination. No reason, no warning, just the deep hiss of brakes and silence swallowing the carriage's whole. Delia opened her eyes. She hadn't meant to sleep. She never meant to return here either. Not to Croft Hollow. Not to the place where her mother vanished 17 years ago inside a house that shouldn't exist. But the letter had come in May. Unmarked. Unaddressed. She's still in the house. The owls are waiting. Come alone. W. Only 2 people had ever signed notes to her that way. One was her mother. The other was dead. Delia walked the rest of the way. Rain fell in sheets, dulling the edges of the hills, soaking the cuffs of her coat and the old journal pressed against her chest. The trees grew thicker the closer she came, not wild, but watchful. The path narrowed until it was barely more than moss-covered roots and stone. And then she saw it. The mooring house. It hadn't crumbled. It hadn't aged. It stood exactly as it had the day her mother walked inside and never returned. Tall, dark, 3 stories high with ivy curling up the sides like veins. 3 windows faced the road, and in the third one, the uppermost, rightmost window, a light burned. Just like before, the letter was right. She was being watched. No one else was supposed to live in Croft Hollow. The entire village had been evacuated after the ground began collapsing beneath it. Sinkholes, they said, swallowed a church hole. Roads cracked in half. Delia had been sent away before she was 10. Her mother had refused to leave. Some roots grow too deep, she'd whispered. Some houses too loud. Delia hadn't understood then. She did now. The front door opened before she could knock. There was no sound. Only an owl perched on the banister inside, white as salt, unmoving. It turned its head toward her. Not curious. Welcoming. Delia stepped over the threshold, and the air thickened, as if the house were breathing again. The inside was exactly as she remembered. The deep maroon carpet, the carved wooden staircase, the chandelier that swayed slightly even without wind, and everywhere, the owls. Carved, painted, stuffed, 10 or more, just on the ground floor. But no dust, no age. Time had paused in the mooring house. She stepped forward. A single whisper cut the air. You brought the journal. Delia froze. She turned slowly. A woman stood at the end of the hall. Pale, elegant, wrapped in a housecoat Delia had last seen on the bathroom floor the day her mother disappeared. Her hair was streaked silver, but her face, it hadn't aged more than 5 years. Mom. Delia croaked. The woman's expression flickered. Then, no, not anymore. Delia backed away. Her breath caught in her throat. What is this place? She asked. The house that remembers, the woman said. The house that keeps. But you, I saw you walk in and never come out. They searched for weeks. I came out, the woman said calmly, but not as myself. She gestured to the stairs. The room with the third window. I'm there. I've always been there. What the hell are you saying? That there are 2 of me now, and one of them still thinks she's waiting for you. The lights flickered. The owls all turned at once. Delia flinched. They do that when it's close, the woman said. When what's close? The woman stepped forward. Her hands were cold. You don't remember, do you? She whispered. Remember what? The vow. The attic. The bell that never rang. The name you gave it. Delia's mouth went dry. Names have weight in this house, the woman continued. And when you speak one aloud, it never leaves. I was 8, and you said it anyway. The journal in Delia's arms grew hot. She opened it, shaking, to the first page. There, in a child's handwriting, mooring house belongs to the night. The owls keep its heart. If we call it, it will come. If we forget, it will feed. She flipped ahead. Scrawled sketches, a house bleeding through the trees. Owls with blank eyes. A page torn down the center. Then, a name scribbled over and over. Wintress, Wintress, Wintress. What is it? She whispered. The woman, her mother, her not mother, leaned close. It's the house, and it wants you back. A rumble shook the floorboards. The third window light flickered, and then footfalls upstairs. Slow, dragging. Delia turned, heart hammering. She couldn't move. The owls began to whisper. A dozen voices, soft, syncopated, repeating one word. Stay. The woman pulled back. You have a choice, she said. You can leave now. Forget again. The house will wait another 17 years. Delia's voice trembled. And you. The woman looked toward the stairs. That part of me will keep waiting. But if you go up, you might not come back down. The footsteps stopped, just above them now. Delia felt her chest crush with a sudden certainty. Whoever, whatever, was in the third window room wasn't just waiting. It was her. A version of herself who'd never left. Who'd kept the house company. Who remembered the vow. And then, a whisper. Not from the owls. Not from her mother. From her own mouth. Before she realized she was speaking. Wintress, I remember. The light in the third window went out, and the house smiled. The third window's light went out, and something inside Delia did too. Not fear, not memory, distance. A part of her she hadn't realized she'd left behind 17 years ago suddenly thudded back into her chest like a fist, and the air turned sharp, spiked with cedar, candle wax, and something fouler underneath. She turned to the woman beside her. Are you her? She asked. The woman, her mother or the echo of her, studied her with tired eyes. I'm what was left behind when the house decided it liked me, she said softly. I left the rest of myself upstairs with the name you gave it. Wintress, Delia whispered. The house creaked, pleased. The footfalls above resumed, deliberate, pausing at every board that groaned, as if it wanted to be heard. Delia clutched the journal to her chest. I don't remember making a vow. You didn't have to, the woman said. Children don't need to understand. They only need to speak it. And when they speak it here, it becomes real. Exactly. Delia turned toward the stairs. Her legs felt heavy. Each step she climbed pressed harder on her ribs, like the gravity of the place deepened with altitude. Halfway up, the temperature shifted. Not colder, still, as if the air had stopped breathing. At the landing, she paused. The hallway was long, too long. It hadn't been this long as a child, but now it seemed to stretch without end, framed by oil paintings of windows looking out on things that weren't here. One showed a chapel submerged in water. Another, an orchard with bells instead of fruit. And the one closest to the third room, a door carved into a tree trunk, nailed shut with teeth. Delia reached the third door. The air buzzed. She opened it. The room inside was candlelit, untouched, and mirrored exactly the bedroom she had as a child. Same wallpaper, same iron bed, the same owl-shaped lamp on the corner table, its eyes faintly glowing orange. But someone else was sitting at the desk, writing. Same long braid, same hands. She turned. Delia stared at herself. 17, pale, still. The girl blinked. You're late. Delia felt her heart stutter. You're me, she breathed. I'm the version you left here, the girl said. You made the house a deal, remember? You wanted to leave. I promised to stay so you could go. I didn't. I was a child. That's when it matters most, the girl said flatly. That's when it believes you. Delia's hands trembled. I don't understand. You don't have to, said the girl. You just have to decide if you're here to replace me or join me. The room dimmed. The owl lamp blinked. The walls shuddered. Delia backed away, but the door was already gone. In its place, a tall mirror, black as pitch, and in it, not her reflection. Wintress. She had no face, no voice, only hands, always hands. She reached out from the glass. The girl at the desk stood calmly. If she takes me, you leave again. 17 more years. If she takes you, what happens to me? Depends. On what? On whether you want to remember. Delia stared at the mirror. The figure on the other side tilted her head. Her body pulsed faintly, like breath underwater. Then, a sound. Owls. Hundreds of them. Screeching. Singing. A melody without words, all in one note. Stay. The girl at the desk began to weep. Not from fear. From relief. She's tired, Delia whispered. She's always tired, said the girl. She only wakes when someone remembers her name. The figure in the mirror raised her hand. Delia stepped forward and took it. The world inverted. For a moment, she was all places. A corridor with no end. A staircase spiraling into breath. A bed where no one slept, but dreams waited. And then, the orchard. Again. Only this time, not dead, but blooming. The trees bore fruit shaped like masks. Faces. Her face. Her mother's. Versions of herself she'd never met. Carved into the trunks. Words. She said she'd stay. She never said which one. Delia fell to her knees. She understood now. The mooring house didn't feed on flesh. It fed on selves, versions, timelines, maybes. Anyone who called its name. And now it had hers. Again. She stood. The owls circled above. And a voice, her voice, echoed from the farthest branch. You can leave, Delia. But only if you let me take the part of you that stayed. And from behind her. Or stay and become what was waiting all along. The girl, her younger self, stepped forward. She had no shadow anymore. I was your anchor, she said. But you never pulled me up. Delia looked at her palms. They glowed faintly. A mark on each, the outline of a house. Not drawn, branded. I want to be whole, she whispered. The girl nodded. So does she. From behind the trees, Wintress stepped into view. Not a woman, not a ghost. A house in human shape. And her voice was every owl in unison. One of you is enough. Choose. One of you is enough. Choose. The words didn't echo. They implanted. Delia staggered back. Her mind split between orchard and attic, mirror and stairwell. The younger version of herself, 17, stood motionless, expression unreadable. Wintress waited, faceless, wrapped in a gown of shadows stitched with feathers. The owls circled above like the crown of a throne that had never been empty. I don't understand, Delia whispered. Why does there have to be a choice? 17 looked at her. You called the name again. You opened the door. The house only keeps the version it's fed. You left me here. But now, you're here too. And if I don't choose? Wintress stepped closer. The orchard dimmed. Then you both stay. Forever. Delia clutched the journal to her chest like a shield. I didn't mean to break the vow, she said. I was a child. Wintress tilted her head. A flicker of something like amusement rippling through her facelessness. 17 raised a hand. You didn't break it. I did. I spoke the name aloud the night she vanished. But we were the same then. So the punishment was shared, Delia finished. The orchard shifted again. Every tree bore a different version of herself. In one, she never came back. In another, she replaced her mother in the house. In another, she was the house. All her choices, all her escapes, all still here. None had ever truly left. What happens if I go back? Delia asked. Back through the mirror? 17 stays, said Wintress. The house quiets. The owls sleep. And if I stay, she leaves. You forget again. But this time, not all of you returns. 17 stepped forward. Her eyes shimmered with something ancient. I'm tired of holding your silence. Delia's throat tightened. I didn't know I left you behind. You didn't know because I held it for you. A pause. But I remember the attic, the vow, the night we gave her a name. I remember what she did to us. Delia's knees buckled. The memory cracked open. She was 8. The attic was dark. A storm outside. Her mother asleep. A candle flickering between them. They were playing Summon and Bind, a game Caroline, the neighbor girl, had taught them. Only this time, Delia had whispered a name of her own. A name she said felt cold. Wintress. And the candle blew out. The house inhaled. And nothing was the same again. I named her, Delia said aloud. I brought her here. She was always here, 17 said. You just gave her shape. The orchard trembled. Wintress reached out her hand. You do not end the house. You inherit it. Delia looked down. The journal in her hands had changed. The pages were blank, except the first one. In her handwriting, the house where the owls never leave is waiting to become me. No, she whispered. Wintress stepped closer. Delia turned to 17. I don't want to forget again. I don't want to leave you here. You don't have to. I want to be whole. 17 reached out her hand. You were whole, but you made me to carry the weight. And if we become one again, then we carry her together. The orchard dimmed to dusk. Wintress raised her hands. Then choose. Merge and carry the house, or divide again and bury her. But you cannot stay too. The owls stilled. The trees leaned in. Delia took a breath, deep, solid, and grasped 17's hand. The orchard split open with light. The world inverted again. No scream, no storm. Only the quiet of two names relearning how to be one. When she woke, she was in the attic. Candlelight. Owl lamp glowing orange. But the mirror was gone. And 17, gone too. Only Delia, oneself. Her hand throbbed. She looked down. The scar on her palm now bore an image, not the outline of a house, but an owl. She walked downstairs. The air was still. No more footsteps above. No more whispers. The woman, her mother's not self, sat in the chair by the fire. She looked up, and this time, smiled. You did it. I don't know what I did, Delia said softly. You remembered, and remembered fully. Delia sat beside her, took her hand. It was warm now, alive. Outside, dawn began. The house sighed, and the owls blinked once in unison, then vanished. Paintings, carvings, feathers, gone, as if they'd never been there at all. I'm not afraid anymore, Delia whispered. You shouldn't be, said her mother. Will the house keep sleeping? As long as no one calls her name. Delia smiled. I won't. A long silence passed, but it felt peaceful. Then, her mother added, but someone else might. Delia didn't leave the house right away. She stayed. 4 days. Maybe weeks. Time in the mooring house didn't pass the way it should. Clocks ticked sideways, light changed rooms without moving, and dreams bled into memory like ink into water. But it was quiet. The owls were gone. Her mother, whole again, sat by the fire each night, sewing things Delia couldn't remember ever owning. Delia herself wandered the halls like a returning ghost, reacquainting herself with versions of herself that had never aged but never left. No more mirrors. No more orchard. No more 17. And yet, the scar on her palm itched. It was on the 7th evening that she found the crack, behind a bookcase in the attic. She wasn't looking for it, just running her fingers along the spines of books long unread. Myth and hollow, the names beneath floors, owls as witnesses. Then a click. The shelf shifted, and behind it, a narrow door. Old wood. No handle. Just a carved emblem, the outline of a mask. She pressed her hand to it. It opened without a sound. Behind it, darkness, and something deeper than dark. A pause in reality, like the space between a breath and a scream. Delia hesitated. She didn't want to go in, which she realized meant she must. Inside was a spiral staircase. Stone, wet, no light, but she could see. Not with her eyes, with memory. And at the bottom, a room. Octagonal. Walls lined with mirrors, all veiled with cloth. In the center, a single chair, facing away from her. Someone sat in it. She stepped forward slowly. The figure didn't move. "Wintress?" she asked, barely above a whisper. The chair creaked, and the figure, not Wintress, not quite, turned. Delia gasped. It was her. Older, tired, eyes like dim lanterns, holding fire that never touched the skin. The woman smiled. "Did you think the house would let all of you go?" she said. Delia backed away. "I merged. I chose. I remembered." "You remembered what you wanted," the woman said softly. "But there are parts of you left on purpose. The ones that don't cry. The ones that don't regret. The ones that knew naming Wintress was no accident." Delia's throat dried. She looked down. The owl mark on her hand pulsed. "Why are you here?" she asked. "To keep the house from ringing again." "I thought it was sleeping." "It is. But sleepwalkers dream loud." The woman stood. The mirrors on the walls began to whisper, cloth shifting, glass humming. Delia reached out. The older version of herself took her hand gently. "There will always be one of us in the chair," she said. "Watching, waiting. So I don't have to come back." The woman laughed, not unkindly. "No, you'll come back, but not alone." Delia blinked. Behind her, footsteps, small, uncertain. A girl, maybe 9 years old, stood in the doorway. She held a notebook, wore a cracked owl mask. Delia knew that face, knew the fear in it. She turned back to the woman. "You're her," Delia whispered. "The one who made the vow the first time." The woman nodded. "And she's you again. In the next round. The next loop. The next silence." Delia knelt before the girl. "You don't have to stay," she whispered. But the girl didn't answer. Instead, she held up the notebook. On the first page, "I named her already. I wanted to see what would happen. I'm sorry. I think she likes me." Delia looked back at the mirrors. One had begun to crack. The woman in the chair placed a hand on Delia's shoulder. "You can go. For now. I'll keep this one safe." Delia nodded slowly. And for the first time, she noticed what the mirrors reflected. Not the girl. Not the older Delia. Not even herself. Only the house. Its walls pulsing. Its wood shifting. Its breath awake. Back upstairs, her mother met her at the fire. "You found it, didn't you?" Delia nodded. "And there's always another part." Her mother sipped tea. "That's how the house survives," she said. "Not by locking people in, but by giving them the chance not to forget." Delia smiled faintly, then asked, "Did you leave someone behind too?" Her mother stared into the flames and whispered, "Yes, and one day she'll come looking for me." Delia left Croft Hollow the next morning. She didn't take the journal. She didn't take the owl lamp. She left the door slightly ajar, not as a mistake, but as a warning, or maybe an invitation. The train was waiting this time. She boarded in silence, watched the hills fade behind fog. She fell asleep just as the whistle blew. And in the dream she fell into, a voice whispered behind her ear, "You remembered me once. You will again, when the owls come back."